Dawn in the Himalayas does not arrive in a hurry. The first light seeps over the peaks, painting the sky in a soft wash of rose and violet. The morning wind is colder than the night, slicing across the face like a blade. I tighten the straps of my pack and begin the new day's search. My guide, Syringa! Lian man with eyes sharp as a hawk signals me to keep silent. He kneels, brushing away a thin layer of snow, then smiles faintly. Beneath the frost lies a trail of footprints, far larger than any house cat's, yet strikingly graceful. They wind in a crooked line toward a narrow valley ahead. I crouch and place my hand beside one of the prints. The cold seeps through my glove, but it cannot dull the thrill surging through me. Somewhere ahead, a snow leopard has passed. The distance between us now is measured in hours. We follow the trail. At times, the prints vanish beneath loose rock. At others, the snow lies too deep to reveal them clearly. But Suring never loses the path. He reads every faint scratch on a cliff face, every tuft of fur snagged on a dry bush. The wind rushes past my ears. The snow crunches under each step. The valley narrows, its stone walls rising steeply, sheltering us from the gusts, yet trapping the thick, breathless cold. The silence is so complete, I can hear the beating of my own heart. Suddenly, Suring raises his hand to halt me. On a jutting rock lies something unusual. I step closer. A smear of fresh blood stains the snow, bright against the white. Beside it, a wisp of smoky gray fur, fine as mist. I lift it into the weak morning light. The scent of iron mingles with the wild, musky temps of the mountains. The snow leopard has hunted here, and it is still near. I look up at the slope leading higher into the peaks. Clouds are gathering, warning of a snowstorm that could strike at any moment. We have two choices: turn back, or climb further into the ghost's domain. I do not hesitate. This journey is not for those who give up halfway. And I know that each footprint on the snow will carry me closer to the moment of confrontation. We press on. The snow deepens, the wind sharpens, yet my heart pounds with heat. With every step, I am walking deeper into the snow leopard, esward, a place where few humans are ever allowed to go. In the thin air of the high Himalayas, survival is an art of adaptation. Every creature here has been sculpted by the wind, the cold, and the scarcity of life. But the snow leopard, this ghost among predators, has been refined into something close to perfection. Its coat is the first secret! Thick beyond measure, layered in dense underfur and long guard hairs, it traps heat as if the animal carries its own hearth inside its skin. The smoky gray pattern, mottled with rosettes and spots, breaks its shape into fragments, turning a crouched leopard into nothing more than shifting shadows on rock and ice. The head is broad, the muzzle short, conserving warmth in the bitter air. The eyes, pale, green, or gray, scanned with a calm that hides the calculation within. Above the cheeks, stiff whiskers tremble at the faintest shift in the wind, sensing the movement of prey hidden beyond sight. Its limbs are powerful yet compact, muscles coiled like springs. The snow leopard can leap 15 meters in a single bound and impossible arc that seems more like flight than a jump. The tail, nearly as long as its body, is thick with fur, serving not just for balance on the knife edges of cliffs, but as a blanket to wrap around its face during the cold-ass nights. The paws, broad and fur-covered, are nature's own snowshoes, spreading the animal's weight across the powder and leaving only the faintest trace of its passage. Claws, sharp and retractable, grip rock faces with the certainty of a mountaineer's. But perhaps the most remarkable adaptation is hidden deep inside the snow leopard's lungs and blood. In this oxygen-starved world, its body drinks in every breath with an efficiency unmatched by its lowland cousins. The heart pumps relentlessly, pushing life through veins chilled by air that freezes skin in seconds. I have studied lions whose power shakes the savannah and tigers whose roars rattle the forest. The snow leopard carries a different kind of strength, a quiet, coiled energy that waits patiently, moves without sound, and strikes only when the outcome is certain. Standing here, imagining its form, ghosting between the cliffs, I understand why it has eluded human eyes for centuries. The snow leopard is not merely built to survive here. It is part of the mountains themselves, carved from stone, shadow, and snow. The higher we climb, the more the world changes. Trees thin out until they vanish altogether, replaced by bare, rock, and wind-sculpted snowfields. Here, above 4,000 meters, the mountains ruled with an iron cold. The sun may shine, but its warmth never reaches the skin. This is the snow leopard's demonic kingdom, frozen in time. The ridgelines cut the sky like the edges of ancient blades. Valleys lie in perpetual shadow, their silence broken only by the crack of shifting ice or the distant rumble of an avalanche. Every corner of this landscape is a test. Slopes of loose shale slide underfoot, sending stones clattering into the abyss. The air itself resists you, forcing every breath to be deeper, slower, as if the mountain decides how much life it will allow you to keep. Yet, this harshness is what shapes the life here. Ibex, with curved horns, move like ghosts across vertical cliffs, feeding on tufts of frozen grass that somehow cling to rock. Blue sheep, nimble and wary, gather in small herds, their pale coats blending with the slopes. High above, golden eagles patrol the thermals, their shadows gliding silently over the snow. And somewhere within this kingdom, the snow leopard moves unseen, senses attuned to every shift of wind, every faint vibration of prey on the stone. For the leopard, these peaks are not an obstacle, but a fortress, a hunting ground, and a sanctuary all at once. I stop on a narrow ledge and look out over a valley shrouded in cloud. The scale is humbling every ridge, every glacier, every hidden ravine, stretching far beyond what the eye can take in. It is a place that reminds you how small you are, how brief your time is compared to the ancient patience of these mountains. In such a realm, survival is not about dominance. It is about balance. Every predator, every prey animal, every blade of frozen grass is part of a fragile equation. Disturb it, and the whole kingdom changes. The snow leopard knows this truth, for it has lived by it for millennia. Standing here, I feel as though I have crossed a threshold. I am no longer just a visitor. I am within the frozen kingdom now, and the ghost is watching. The higher we climb, the more the world changes. Trees thin out until they vanish altogether, replaced by bare, rock, and wind-sculpted snowfields. Here, above 4,000 meters, the mountains ruled with an iron cold. The sun may shine, but its warmth never reaches the skin. This is the snow leopard's demonic kingdom, frozen in time. The ridgelines cut the sky like the edges of ancient blades. Valleys lie in perpetual shadow, their silence broken only by the crack of shifting ice or the distant rumble of an avalanche. Every corner of this landscape is a test. Slopes of loose shale slide underfoot, sending stones clattering into the abyss. The air itself resists you, forcing every breath to be deeper, slower, as if the mountain decides how much life it will allow you to keep. Yet, this harshness is what shapes the life here. Ibex, with curved horns, move like ghosts across vertical cliffs, feeding on tufts of frozen grass that somehow cling to rock. Blue sheep, nimble and wary, gather in small herds, their pale coats blending with the slopes. High above, golden eagles patrol the thermals, their shadows gliding silently over the snow. And somewhere within this kingdom, the snow leopard moves unseen, senses attuned to every shift of wind, every faint vibration of prey on the stone. For the leopard, these peaks are not an obstacle, but a fortress, a hunting ground, and a sanctuary all at once. I stop on a narrow ledge and look out over a valley shrouded in cloud. The scale is humbling every ridge, every glacier, every hidden ravine, stretching far beyond what the eye can take in. It is a place that reminds you how small you are, how brief your time is compared to the ancient patience of these mountains. In such a realm, survival is not about dominance. It is about balance. Every predator, every prey animal, every blade of frozen grass is part of a fragile equation. Disturb it, and the whole kingdom changes. The snow leopard knows this truth, for it has lived by it for millennia. Standing here, I feel as though I have crossed a threshold. I am no longer just a visitor. I am within the frozen kingdom now, and the ghost is watching. Life in the high mountains is not lived alone. Even here, in a realm that seems too barren to sustain many, the snow leopard shares its kingdom with others, some competitors, some allies, in an unspoken balance. Across the ridges, the howls of Himalayan wolves roll through the valleys. Their packs roam widely, lean and tireless, driving prey into exhaustion before closing in for the kill. The wolves and the snow leopard hunt many of the same animals. Sometimes their paths cross, and tension follows two predators, both hungry, each unwilling to yield a kill. I have heard stories of leopards abandoning a carcass rather than face a pack, but also of wolves driven back by a lone, defiant cat. Above, in the thin blue air, golden eagles wheel in silence. They are not a threat to a full-grown leopard, but to a cub left alone on the rocks. They are death from the sky. I have seen an eagle dive with terrifying speed, wings folding into a living spear. A mother leopard will never stray far from her young, for she knows the danger overhead. Then there are the scavengers, the Himalayan vultures, massive and unhurt. They circle patiently, waiting for the leopard to leave its kill. In this frozen land, nothing is wasted. The leopard takes its share, and the vultures clean what remains. It is not friendship, but it is a kind of cooperation, shaped by necessity. Even among the prey, there are patterns of coexistence. The blue sheep and the ibex are watchful, not only for the leopard but for wolves and eagles as well. Their vigilance benefits all in the herd. A sudden alarm from one group may save another, though it may also cost the leopard a meal. In this intricate web of rivalry and reluctant companionship, no creature is truly alone. Every life here is bound to the others, by hunger, by survival, and by the unforgiving laws of the mountains. The snow leopard is solitary by nature, but it is never separate from the rhythms around it. Each rival shapes its hunts. Each companion, even those it never touches, shapes its fate. The ghost may move alone, but it walks through a kingdom alive with others, all drawn together by the same relentless need to endure. Winter loosens its grip slowly in the Himalayas. Snow still clings to the shaded valleys, and the wind remains sharp. But the light changes to days stretch longer. The air softens with the faint scent of thawing earth. For the snow leopard, this is the season of life. Courtship in these heights is a rare and fleeting affair. For most of the year, the leopard walks alone, its path crossing another's only in silence and distance. But in the late winter and early spring, males and females begin to seek each other. They're Kozlo, guttural, chuff scaried on the wind. These sounds are not often heard, even by those who live among the mountains. But they are the prelude to the next generation. When two leopards meet, there is no roar, no violent clash. Instead, they circle, cautious but curious, brushing whiskers, winding tails together. For a few days, they will travel as one, hunting, resting, and mating in the hidden folds of the cliffs. And then, just as suddenly, the male will vanish into the high ridges, leaving the female to her solitary task. The gestation is short, barely 3 months, but in this land, every day is a gamble. The mother must find a den, a hollow in the rocks, a cave shielded from the wind, hidden from wolves and eagles. Here, she will give birth to 1 to 3 tiny cubs, each blind, each no heavier than a man's hand. Their survival will depend entirely on her. 4 weeks, she does not hunt far from the den, feeding on what she can store or kill nearby. The cubs grow quickly, their eyes opening to the dim light of their rocky home. They learn her scent, her warmth, the sound of her breathing in the dark. Outside, the mountains wait vast, cold and merciless. By the time summer greens the lower slopes, the cubs are ready to take their first steps into that world. They stumble on unsure paws, chasing each other clumsily across the rocks, while their mother watches with an intensity that never relaxes. Every rustle of wind, every shadow passing overhead could mean danger. The season of life here is short. By the time the first snows return, the cubs must be strong enough to follow her on the hunt, to leap the chasms, to survive the cold. She will teach them everything she knows, the patience of the stalk, the precision of the leap, the silence of the shadows. And when the next winter arrives, they will part. She will walk alone again, and they will begin their own solitary journeys across the white expanse of the Himalayas, each carrying the legacy of the ghost into another generation. The mountains have always been a place of extreme fierce winters, searing sun, storms that can strip the life from the slopes in hours. For millennia, the snow leopard has thrived here, adapting to the rhythm of ice and thaw. But now, that rhythm is changing. It begins subtly. Glaciers that once lay unmoving, for centuries now groan and fracture in the summer heat. Streams fed by ancient ice swell earlier in the year, carrying with them silt from the mountain's heart. Snow that should linger well into spring melts in weeks, leaving the ridges bare and exposed. For the snow leopard, the changes are not just in the landscape, but in the life it sustains. Blue sheep and ibex climb higher to find fresh grazing, their ranges shifting away from the lower slopes where they once fed in abundance. With prey scattered, the leopard must travel farther, burning precious energy in the thin air. The melting ice brings more than hunger. It brings people. As new valleys open and grazing land appears where once there was snow. Herders drive their flocks deeper into the leopard's domain. With them come the inevitable conflicts, goats taken in the night, retaliations that leave a silent body on the rocks. I have walked through valleys where the snow should have been knee-deep in late spring, only to find dust and dry grass. I have spoken to elders who say the rivers now run differently, faster, and vanish sooner. Even the air feels changed, warmer, thinner, unsettled. The snow leopard has always been a creature of adaptation, but even it cannot move higher forever. There is a limit to the peaks, a ceiling beyond which nothing lives. And each year, that line creeps closer. Standing on the edge of a glacier, I can hear the water rushing beneath the ice, unseen but relentless. It is the sound of time speeding forward, of a balance tipping. The leopard does not know the word extinction, but it knows when the prey is gone, when the snow is wrong, when the land it knew is no longer the same. The curse of the melting ice is not just that it erodes the mountains, it erodes the future. And unless something changes, even the ghost of the Himalayas will have nowhere left to haunt. The Himalayas may seem empty to those who only pass through, but they are home to more than the snow leopard. Scattered across the high valleys are villages of stone and wood, their people bound to the land by generations of survival. For centuries, humans and leopards have shared these mountains in an uneasy truce, each keeping to its own space. But as the ice recedes and the boundaries blur, that truce is breaking. In the thin morning air, smoke rises from yak dung fires. Herders prepare their flocks of sheep and goats, driving them toward slopes where the last scraps of grass remain. These animals are not wild. They are livelihood, food, and survival for the families who live here. To lose even a few is to risk an empty winter. But to the snow leopard, a goat is no different from a blue sheep. It is prey vulnerable, fattened, and easier to take than the fleet-footed wild herds now pushed higher into the peaks. A single night raid can leave a pen in ruin, the animals scattered or dead. For the herder, it is not just a loss, it is an insult, a challenge to the order of their lives. I have heard the stories whispered by firelight. Men who have tracked a leopard for days after losing their stock, finding it at last in a rocky hollow and ending its life with a single shot. Others who set steel traps, baited with meat, waiting for the ghost to return. These are not hunts for sport, they are acts of retaliation, born of anger and necessity. Yet not all see the leopard as an enemy. In some villages, elders speak of it with a kind of reverence. They believe the presence of the leopard means the mountains are still whole, that the spirits of the high places are still watching over them. These voices are quiet, often drowned out by the urgency of survival. The conflict is not simple. The herder fights for his family's future. The leopard fights for its life. Each kill is a victory for one, a loss for the other. And in a land where there is so little to begin with, every loss is felt twice. I stand in a pasture ringed by prayer flags, watching goats graze in the pale light. Somewhere beyond the ridge, a leopard may be watching too. It does not hate. It does not plan revenge. It hunts because it must, but in doing so, it draws the thin red line between coexistence and war. In the midst of the growing tension between humans and the snow leopard, there are those who have chosen a different path, not to hunt the ghost, but to protect it. They are scientists, rangers, villagers, and volunteers. bound by a shared belief that the leopard's survival is tied to the survival of the mountains themselves. I meet them in a remote outpost too, stone buildings pressed against the side of a cliff, a prayer flag fluttering above the roof. This is not a military post, but it is a kind of front line. Inside, maps cover the walls, each marked with hand-drawn notes. Sightings, kill sites, migration routes. On the tables lie coils of wire, motion-triggered cameras, and radio collars designed to track the movements of the most elusive cat in the world. The work begins with knowledge. Camera traps hidden along narrow passes and rocky ledges silently record what the human eye so rarely sees. Mother leading her cubs across a ridge at dawn. A male marking the edge of his territory, a solitary figure crouched over a fresh kill. Every image is a piece of a larger puzzle, revealing where the leopards go, when they hunt, and how they survive. Then comes the harder part: winning the trust of the people who share the mountains with the ghost. The guardians visit villages, not as outsiders, but as neighbors. They speak with herders about livestock insurance programs, about building predator-proof corrals, about the benefits of keeping the leopard alive. In some places, ecotourism has begun to take root: visitors who will pay to glimpse the ghost from a distance, bringing income that can replace what a lost goat once meant. But progress is slow. A single attack on a herd can erase months of patient work. A harsh winter can drive desperation deep into the bones of both man and cat. The guardians know they cannot save every leopard, nor stop every conflict. But each one they protect is a victory, each conversation a chance to shift the story from one of loss to one of coexistence. One evening, as the sun bleeds into the jagged horizon, I watch a guardian check a camera trap. The small screen flickers to life, and there it is, a snow leopard, caught mid-stride, tail curling behind it like a banner. The man smiles, not as a scientist recording data, but as someone who has just received news of an old friend still alive. In that moment, I understand their work is more than conservation. It is a promise that, as long as there are those willing to stand between the ghosts and its end, the mountains will never be entirely silent. The mountains have a way of making every ending feel temporary. Even as one expedition closes, there is a sense that the story continues just beyond the next ridge, hidden from view but alive all the same. My time in the Himalayas was drawing to an end. Yet I could not shake the feeling that my work with the snow leopard was far from complete. The days that followed my last sighting were filled with reflection. I retraced paths carved into ice and stone, passing the sites where I had first seen paw prints, where the wind had carried the scent of prey, where I had watched the ghost vanish into the folds of the ridge. Each place felt like a chapter in a book that would never truly be finished. In the villages, I spoke again with herders and elders. Some had begun to see the leopard differently, not as a thief in the night, but as a guardian of balance. The insurance programs, the predator-proof corrals, the promise of ecotourism. Income small steps, but steps nonetheless. There were still those who distrusted the idea of living alongside a predator, yet the conversation had changed. Where once there had been only anger, now there was also curiosity. The scientists I had met continued their work with quiet determination. They spoke of new cubs spotted on camera, of GPS data showing leopards returning to territories they had abandoned years before. These were victories, measured in inches, in moments. But in the mountains, even the smallest gain feels monumental. I realized that my journey here had been as much about people as it had been about the leopard. To understand the ghost was to understand the lives intertwined with Etha shepherd guarding his flock. The child who grows up hearing stories of Shan, the researcher who spends months in the cold for a few seconds of footage. The snow leopard remains what it has always been. Elusive, solitary, untamed. I will never know all its secrets, nor will anyone else, but perhaps that is the point. The ghost endures because it cannot be fully possessed, because it exists in a space between seen and unseen, known and unknown. As I packed for the long descent back to the lowlands, the mountains stood silent, their peaks cut from the winter sky. Somewhere up there, the snow leopard was moving, hunting, resting, watching. The journey was not over. It never would be. The next chapter was already being written in the snow, by paws I would not see again, but whose presence I would always feel. The Himalayas do not speak in words, yet they hold a language older than any human tongue. It is carried in the wind that sweeps across the pasas, in the slow grind of glaciers, in the unbroken silence of snowfields under starlight. For those who listen, the mountains make a promise one that binds all who live here, human and wild alike. That promise is not of safety or comfort. It is of balance. Everything in these heights survives because it understands its place within the whole. The blue sheep feed on the thin grass. The snow leopard hunts the sheep. The vultures clean what remains. Even the storms and avalanches have their part, reshaping the land so that life can return anew. But balance is fragile. I've seen how quickly it can tilt, how one missing link can set off a chain of losses that cannot be undone. The melting ice, the encroaching pastures, the retaliatory hunsol are cracks in the foundation of the promise. If they spread too far, the ghost of the mountains will vanish, and the silence left behind will be of absence, not peace. Yet, I have also seen reasons to hope. In a patient work of the guardians who track the leopard's movements through storms and darkness, in the herders who choose to build stronger corrals rather than set traps, in the rare, clear days when a leopard is caught on camera leading her cubs across a ridge, living proof that the species still endures. The snow leopard asks nothing from us but space to roam, to hunt, to raise its young in the only home it has ever known. In return, it gives us something harder to measure. A reminder that there are still places in the world where the wild runs deeper than human ambition, where life moves to rhythms we cannot control. As I stand on a final ridge, the valley falling away beneath me, I feel the weight of that promise. The wind carries no sound but its own. Somewhere beyond sight, the snow leopard moves unseen, just as it has for millennia. It does not need our praise, only our restraint. The journey down will take me away from these peaks, but not from their memory. I know I will return not for the certainty of seeing the ghost again, but for the possibility, because in that possibility lies the heart of the Himalayas, and the unspoken promise that if we keep the balance, the ghost will remain.